Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, and my co-host will be joining us later in the show. We have another amazing lineup with 3 of the guests being brand new to the show, never having appeared before. So we're excited to have them. And the only notation that I have at the top of the show is, well, 2 notations. One, my daughter got married on Saturday. It was very beautiful, and she's now on her honeymoon. So I have an official empty nest, although it's been somewhat unofficial, but now it's official. And so I have to get used to that. So I'm just going to stay busy, and I'm already busy anyway, so I should be fine with it. And she married a really good guy. That's important. So also, the National Black Book Festival is rapidly approaching, and we are 86% filled in terms of vendor space. So if you want to get the vendor table as an author, publisher, or small business, don't delay. We expect to sell out soon. So having said that, I'm going to bring on our first guest, and our co-host has joined us as well. So welcome, Rhonda, to Black Authors Matter TV. I had to say that. I said at the top of the show that my daughter's wedding was Saturday, and it went really well. So
yes, I saw the pictures. It was beautiful.
Yeah, she had a pretty big wedding party, and everything went, no hitches or anything. It was a modern wedding. I have to tell you about it. So, okay. Yeah. So anyway, our first guest is a veteran of radio, New York radio in particular, but he's also been in other cities with his career. And he has a memoir talking about his broadcasting career, and his name is Kingsley H. Smith. So as soon as he comes on camera, we will welcome him into the show. Hope you had a good weekend, Rhonda.
It was nice. We had a nice Father's Day. We went to Fogo de Chao. I'm still full.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I had company from out of town. My sister and my brother-in-law came for the wedding.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, once we did all the wedding stuff Saturday, we just kind of stayed in, on Sunday. Well, we went to church Sunday morning. They wanted to see that. So, Kingsley, we were waiting on you to come on camera so we could unmute so we can hear you too. And
well, unmute.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Did you have to push a button somewhere in another room, or we can hear you now?
Okay, and you don't see me on camera?
Yes.
We see you.
Oh, okay.
We see you.
Okay,
we saw you, but we couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. We're good to go.
Okay. This isn't radio.
I know, unfortunately.
So anyway, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. And hello to you, Gwen, and hello, Rhonda. And here's the book. It is Powerhouse Radio, Rough Roads, Radiance, and Rebirth, my true AM/FM satellite and audio streaming survival story. And I'll tell you, there are no co-writers, no ghostwriters, no AI. It was all done by me.
Okay. Yeah, you have to include everything now.
Yeah, well, it was. Yeah, I wrote it back in, started in 2021, ended in early 2023, and it was published in June of 2024, but it didn't hit the market. I didn't really release it until January of 2024.
24 or 25?
25?
24. No, 24. It's been out about 18 months.
Oh, it's been out about
Oh,
18 months.
okay,
Because
okay.
when you were doing the timeline, I got confused about that. So, but
Sorry
anyway,
about
so
that.
it's been out about 18 months, and it is your memoir
It is.
about your career and in broadcasting. And so, where does the book start in terms of your life? Do you start by saying I was a little boy in whatever town, or do you start when your career starts? How do you start your memoir?
There's a little bit of that, and there's a lot of that. Actually, I would segment the book in three particular sections, focusing on three different experiences in three different cities. But I actually included all. But let me tell you a quick story, though, about a lady who's very close to my heart, and that is my mother. She came to the United States of America in 1945, and she had a degree from the Pittman School of Stenography out of London. Now, my mom was from Jamaica in the Caribbean,
Okay.
and she earned her certificate in stenography from the school that was in Jamaica. Now, in 1945, if you were a Black woman, I don't care where you were, it's going to be difficult for you to get a stenography position. So, anyway, my mom thought it best to come to the United States. So she left Jamaica, landed in Miami, and when she got in the airport, she tells me how she couldn't even get a cup of coffee there because of discrimination really hot and heavy at the time. However, she continued her journey up to New York City. My grandmother actually sponsored her to come to the United States.
Mm.
And so when mom got to New York City, she met up with her older sister and her younger sister. Now, I told you my mom had a certificate in stenography, but she couldn't get a job. So, what she did was she worked in white people's homes as a domestic, and she did that for a few years. She did go back to school, though. She was smart about it. So, in 1949, she got a certificate from the Apex Beauty School in New York City. That was 1949. Now, I come along about 3 years later. My mom becomes a naturalized citizen in 1956, and I saw some of her hand notes as she studied to learn the history of the United States. So it's pretty difficult if you weren't born in the United States. So
Mhm.
she worked hard as a beautician in the 50s and the 60s. She finally was able to open her own beauty salon in the early 1970s. And I point all of this out to let you know that my sense of value and my sense of hard work all comes from her. And a lot of that is reflected in the story that I tell in both the paperback, the audiobook, and the ebook.
Okay. And
Wow.
you did your own narration or voicing on the audiobook.
Yes, I did. And there's a great story about that. Actually, I was shooting for somebody a little younger. So I hired a guy who was very good. He had worked in Christian radio, had worked in other radio. He was Black out of Chicago. And we agreed upon a fee, and he said he could do it in 30 days. All right, I gave him some audio tips, I gave him some cheat sheets, and after 30 days, he only did one chapter, and there were so many mistakes, I had to have him go back to the drawing board. So I
How
gave him
does
a
he
two.
make mistakes? It's narration. Was he mispronouncing?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
He was not from the New York City area, so there were a lot of regional uh,
Mm.
words that he really didn't get correct. So I gave him a 2 week extension. He really didn't deliver. I gave him another 2 week extension. So I gave him 2 months to complete the audiobook, but he couldn't cut it. And I actually have a great story on one of my blogs about this entire process. So I went to plan B while I was waiting for him to do his thing. And I started to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning to try to avoid all the neighborhood noise because I have a home studio in my home, in my house. And that's how I did it. It took me about 5 weeks to do it. And that was actually released first. That was released in December of 2023. And then the paperback came out in January of 2024.
Well, it's interesting that you didn't, from the very jump, decide to voice it yourself. You have a great voice, and you're
Yeah,
already experienced in
right.
voiceovers because of your radio background. Why did you think you wanted somebody else to do it?
Because I wanted to give a younger black guy a chance.
That makes
That
sense.
was the reason why. I mean, I didn't tell you in my story about my mom. She raised me as a single parent. So I always want to give a helping hand to somebody else who I can help lift and bring along because of my own experiences at some radio stations. There was famous DJ Eddie OJ out of Cleveland. As a matter of fact, he gave the OJs their name, Eddie
Right.
OJ. So
I've heard of him.
Oh, okay,
I've
yes.
heard of him.
when
Mhm.
I was working at WLIB and WBLS, really, I was a teenager at the time. I was going to school, and I was hired by LIB and BLS to do a board operator duty. So I'd already been working there for about a month. I'd worked with every one of the DJs, running their boards, queuing up their records, playing the commercials, doing all those things that you have to do. So I was assigned to Eddie OJ's show. He was the morning DJ. So I walk into the studio and he said, "No, no, I don't want you. I want the experienced guy." And I never forgot that because I figure we're really here in whatever industry and whatever business that we're a part of to help bring another generation along, kind of transfer the knowledge, transfer the wealth. And he was a negative, but there were a lot of other black announcers and DJs as I was growing up in New York City who would allow me to come into their studio when I was very young, watch them, and they did for me the same things I would like to do for some other young people. It doesn't even have to be, it could be a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter.
Mhm. Well, the example that you gave, the scenario you painted about your experience with a young man, it also tells people, if they're paying attention, that when you get a shot, you have to do well with it
Mm-hmm.
because that person can become your reference for other work, other clients.
Absolutely. And when I started, I really didn't know that many people in broadcasting. I think the key for me was my college experience, my college radio experience, because one of the engineers at the radio station, he was doing consultancy work for one of the big stations in New York. And when an opening came up, I was 19 years old at the time. I got fired at that job after a year for not paying as much attention to some of the details that I should have been. But that's how I got my first job. Then after that, it was on to WLIB and WBLS. And after that, I got my first announcing job in upstate New York.
And you never look back from that point.
No, it was good experience working 18 months in upstate New York, but I think the biggest break for me was getting hired by, well, he this person picked me, Walt Baby Love. He was a big announcer.
Yes, I'm familiar with that name, Walt Baby Love.
Yeah, he worked in New York, he worked in LA, he worked in Detroit, he worked all over the place. He was
Yes.
hired as a consultant, and I saw a little blurb in one of the major trade publications. It said, if you're interested in working, give Walt Baby Love a call. Now, I don't think people would put their phone numbers in Indeed listings today, things like that. But one of the morals of the story is to always watch industry magazines, newsletters, electronic newsletters. So I contacted Walt Love. He said, "Hey, send me a tape." I sent him a tape. He liked my tape and I was hired. And I was one of the original DJs in Atlantic City at WUSS. And the story about WUSS is it was the first Black owned station in the state of New Jersey. I
Hmm.
was on the original staff. But let me go to 2021 and tell you how writing the book really came along. I was surveying some historical notes online about WUSS, and I came across one short anecdote. And the person who wrote the anecdote really started in the middle of the story. I said, hey, what's this? We needed a prequel. So I decided, after doing a lot of research, going through all the papers that I had saved from the various places that I worked, I said, I'm just going to put in the time and the effort to write this book. And it took about 2 years, on and off. But once I did a quick little reveal on one of those social media sites, that oh, it's out there. I have to finish the book, and I did. I got it out, as I said, June of 2024. June of 2024.
Yes.
23.
You're very intentional in the way you plan. I've noticed that just listening to your timelines and your way of just moving through your career and your plans. You're very intentional in everything that you do.
I try to be, but when you're working for an employer and they're not as intentional as you are, or because of social stigmas and things that stand in the way of moving forward, it's a problem. Now, one of the reasons why I left the WUSS station was, which I said was the first Black-owned station in
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey. Look, there were societal issues, there were economic issues. A lot of the community folks did not want to advertise. It was tough for the owners to make the payroll. And hey, life is difficult. And it
Right.
continues to this day in Black media and Black radio. It's rough. It's rough to be successful. My local station here where I live, they're going through pains and heartaches right now, because sometimes we don't support our own institutions and our own media, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
So
Now,
I
where do you see radio in relation to all of the other avenues of communication? Because radio and TV used to be it. Radio was where you heard your music and got news too. But with the social media, YouTube and
And
all of
not
that.
just that, but streaming. I mean, a lot of people are
Yeah.
streaming now.
Yes.
yeah,
So
radio has seen better days. Let me put it that way. With a lot of podcasts now, with online streaming. And I do have a chapter on online streaming because I had an online streaming station for 15 years, as a matter of fact, doing that part time. But it's tough because of automation. Automation has taken away some of the artistic human factor when it comes to crossing between two records, saying what the announcer has to say. A lot of radio now is automated. In many places, you don't even have a DJ anymore.
Right.
I would say talk radio is probably almost as strong as some music radio in most cities. Unfortunately, talk radio leans towards the right. I'm lucky I'm in the Philadelphia region, so I get to listen to the local Black talk radio station, which is great. I love it. But I still listen to music stations too. But in terms of where radio is going, even in public radio, there is a big movement now to have listeners up the ante and make those donations and to fund the public broadcasting stations. Public broadcasting just means it's not for profit.
right. Mhm. And normally public broadcasting, they raise their budget through fundraisers, sometimes annual or semi-annual or whatever. And same thing with public television too.
Yeah,
They have
and
campaigns.
as we know, there's a thought in the current administration to totally defund public broadcasting. Now,
Right.
the truth of the matter is most public radio stations, well, let me backtrack. Let me just mention NPR because that was the final step in my career journey. I worked for NPR, the network in Washington, D.C. I was there 17 and a half years. But NPR only gets about 1%, 2% of its budget from the federal government. It's really small. And I believe if public television and public radio are defunded, I think people are going to step up to the mic and up their percentage. Usually it's around 10%. Some stations, it's a little bit more than 10%. But public radio came around early on. Actually, you can even go back to the Civil War when land grant universities were created. And it was these land grant universities, especially in the middle of the country, they are the ones that got the FCC licenses. And the whole strategy behind land grant universities and the radio and TV was to teach technology, mathematics, and art. Sound familiar? It's the same thing as STEM nowadays: science, technology, engineering, and math. So when the public television legislation was formed in the 1950s, and then public radio, after that, in the early 60s, it was the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. They kind of changed the name, and then NPR was created around 1971. And their first program was a program called All Things Considered. So I have a very interesting background. I mean, I worked in black radio. I worked in pop 40 radio. I worked in adult contemporary radio. I worked in jazz, online streaming, satellite radio, which we haven't even talked about, and then public radio. So it's quite an interesting journey that I did over, let's say, 43 years professionally, some as an amateur too.
Well, fun fact, when I was in college, I was a radio DJ for a little while, for my college radio station. And my last job in the Army was I was a station manager for American Forces Network. And sometimes I would sub for my DJs, and I would, just kind of sub doing the news or DJing the show. And one thing about radio is that you never know how many people are listening. You never know who's listening, but you have to mentally and physically show up each show, and you have to entertain as if you're entertaining to a room full of people, because you just never know who's listening. And like I said, you don't know how many people are listening. Is that something that used to go through your head?
Absolutely. That's the difference between being an amateur, even if you're getting paid, and a professional.
Yes.
It was one famous Philadelphia DJ said, the difference is focus. You have to be able to come in every day, even if you don't feel up to it. You've got a job to do, because radio is not just information, it's entertainment, and it's community service. It's all three of those things. So yes, you have to put yourself in a mindset to be disciplined enough to come in early, do your background work, because you just don't turn the microphone on and start talking. It's interesting, you mentioned AFN. When I was at NPR, that was one of the channels that we had broadcasting globally, primarily to Europe and the Middle East. So we had AFN, we had several other channels too, which I before I left, I was running those channels internationally.
Yeah, that was an interesting time, because I grew up on AFN because I was a military brat. So it was kind of an honor for me that my last job in the Army was to be a station manager for AFN. And then they celebrated this big anniversary while I was there, and just seeing how far radio and TV had come, or how far AFN had come, just watching it from the very beginning up until now. And that's a time I'm always going to treasure.
We had a channel which was the only FM channel ever licensed by NPR, was in Berlin, Germany.
Yes.
And Voice of America, which is somewhat of a political, I don't want to say political, but the mission of Voice of America was really to give a positive spin and a positive perspective on the United States. So Voice of America lost the frequency. NPR acquired the frequency. I guess it was in the late 1990s, mid 1990s. And so we broadcast in Berlin, Germany, too. And I actually ran that station from the United States and was there a couple of times to do station events over there. So radio's really gone into a global thing. In the 1980s, there were no satellites. I know you're familiar with Tom Joyner. Tom's got a
Yes.
great book. I'm just a DJ, but it makes sense to me. And hey, fly jock back and forth, Chicago, Dallas, Chicago, Dallas. But Tom wasn't the first person that really did that. Some members of our listening, viewing audience may know the name Hal Jackson. Hal Jackson was the first Black announcer to work for a network. And I was lucky enough to work with Hal when I was at WLIB and WBLS. So Hal, if Tom Joyner was a fly jock, Hal Jackson was the road warrior because he would start on the same day now. He would start in Baltimore, do a show, or DC. Let's say he started in DC, do a show in DC, drive to Baltimore, do a show in Baltimore, and then drive up to New York City and do a show in New York. All three on the same day. So
Now
there's a
that's what
little
you
bit
call
of
being in demand.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Hal was a great guy, and after I left and went to Atlantic City, he stayed in touch. He would give me guidance as I was operating in my program director duties, and he'd write me and say, "Kingsley, here's what you should do." So I had some really good experiences. I don't want it to all seem like there was always trauma and
Right.
issues every place I worked, but every place I worked, there was something that was really uh, monumental. But I have to say, WUSS, 1974 to 1977, knowing those four Black owners, knowing what they were trying to do to bring to the community, it was tough. I mean, there was a day when I was there at the station. Hey, lock the doors. You don't know who's coming to grab the equipment. I'm not the only person that tells that kind of a story. You see that kind of come up in a lot of smaller stations
Mm.
because of it's expensive to do it and to do it well. So the audience realizes on their end, not just on an emotional level, but on a technical and professional level, that you're really doing everything correctly.
Well, I know we're coming toward the end. I'm sorry, Gwen, were you about to ask something?
Well, I was going to say that, but as a final question, I wanted to ask if you could give some advice to someone who may be interested.
Well,
And me and
Gwen, see,
Rhonda
this is
know
how
each
much we're
other
in
like,
sync because I was going to ask him about because I'm listening to him and he's really a student of his industry, and I'm just wondering if he mentored maybe younger DJs or up and coming DJs. So that goes right along with what I was going to ask.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing about being in management is you get an opportunity to craft the staff. You can bring in the people that you think are talented enough, or you can mold enough to move forward and go on to bigger and better things. I did that in Southern New Jersey. I did that at NPR. So yes, I mean, it's funny. There are kind of two dimensions to this. You can be a decision maker, but if you're a decision maker and you don't have budgetary control, that's another story. So in many of my situations, I was a decision maker, but I didn't have the final word on the budget, and that was an impediment. There was a couple of times when I worked in Philadelphia at WHYY, which is the news and information station there, a public radio station. A couple of times I was named as the acting station manager, promoted from operations manager or program director. And both of those times, I didn't get the gig, but I didn't give up. So I stayed there, and that job turned into success at NPR. So I was happy for that. But I was always mentoring. I have a chapter. Actually, I have one of my one of the folks that I mentored. I let her write a little blurb in the book about how her experience was was helpful to her. She was an intern at NPR, and I had a lot of interns, a ton of interns.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, can you show your book cover one more time for
I
the
can.
audience so they
Powerhouse
can
Radio, Rough Roads Radiance and Rebirth, my true, and it's true, AM, FM, satellite, and audio streaming survival story. I want to make a shout out to Troy. I know you have Troy coming up, and a
Yeah.
little trivia about Troy. Troy was born in the town where I grew up, St. Albans, Queens, in New York City, right next to Hollis.
All right.
Okay. Well, I don't know if he's watching, he actually got the time zones mixed up and he thought he was at the top of the show. We thought that he got the time an hour ahead of when he was supposed to come on. So he actually logged on and then I texted him and told him that he had an hour before his time slot. So
Troy's a great guy. He knows his stuff.
He and I've known him for a long time, worked with him on book in the book industry for many, many, many years. And he has a lot of integrity, which is not as common as it should be. I'll put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again. Congratulations on your book. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Rhonda. It's been a pleasure to be here.
It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, so that's Kingsley Smith, who had a long career in radio of all kinds. And so our next guest is Shonda Allen Hill. She's a motivational speaker and she has a new book out. And she's an author and motivational speaker. And her book is about the top 5 conversation traps to avoid. And I don't know if I've heard the term conversation trap before. I know there's some kind of music called trap. I don't know what it is.
I don't think that's what she's talking about.
That's what she's talking about. I still don't know what trap music is.
No, but I think I know what she's talking about. I want to let her explain it, but yeah. I'm down for the conversation trap because I think that a lot of us may have fallen into that trap where you're having a conversation with somebody, you hear their point of view, and all of a sudden your mind tells you that their point of view is the right thing, and then you change your entire way of thinking based on what that person said. But I think that's what you're talking about, Shonda, but come off mute. Come off mute.
Oh, yeah. Let's see.
Mute.
We haven't heard anything you've said
there
yet.
We go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Listen, well, you could tell I was tickled. I love you guys because you just run with it. Well, let me just you are close. So the conversation traps are similar to that. They are simply traps that we walk into, productive folk who want to get things done, but we walk into these traps with people, and I have identified 5 of those. And these are traps that really just kind of take you off of your goals. Yes. I started saying to myself, I treat my conversations, my words, and my energy like money. So how much am I spending a day? And I ask myself, can I afford this conversation? That's one of the things that I say. Can I afford to have this conversation? And so conversation traps started with, actually an issue I had with my husband and I. We don't see eye to eye, in terms of our financial systems. Okay. And so our values are the same, but our system is different. I would repeat over and over and over again. We just didn't connect. I was burning so much energy and I exhausted myself. Okay. But I didn't have the ingenuity and the creativity to actually do what I was trying to convince him that I thought I needed him to help me do.
Wait, keep going with that. That's intriguing.
Yeah. And so what I realized is that I was wasting a lot of time trying to influence, cajole, trying to, bring my point across, get somebody to understand where I'm coming from. And honestly, every time I approached the subject, we just did not it just wasn't there. Everybody has those situations. That's
Yes.
called the Groundhog Day trap in the book.
Oh, okay.
It's the one that says, listen, you know how this conversation is going to end. You already know how this conversation is going to end, trap. And so you exhaust yourself. You don't have the energy and the ingenuity and the creativity to actually solve the problem. Stop talking about it. Skip over that part. Save that energy and use it to actually do what you want to do. And one of the things I wanted to do was financial freedom. And so once I stopped trying to convince my husband about it and all of those things, I retired at 51 debt free.
Now,
Nice.
did you end
Wow.
up going back to work? Or
I ended
I
up
mean, are
starting my
you,
business.
are
I'm about to
you,
say, because I saw your boss was trying to get you to come back.
so when you retire, what did that mean exactly? You know, retirement means different things to different people, especially at an age that's younger than your typical retirement age of 65 or older.
Yes. So it really does mean just doing the things that I really wanted to do. That's what it meant. So yeah, I'm just as busy as I was almost when I was working, but the idea that I can freely,
Yeah.
decide what I want to do, it makes a big difference. And I promise you, it all started when I just said, you know what? I've got to, even at work, I had to stop trying to convince people to do things. If you want me to shift this pile of paper from one stack to the other for 8 hours, that's on you. I mean, why am I going to spend a whole bunch of energy trying to, convince people of something that they don't necessarily want to be convinced of? And so, yeah. So that's what I started to do, and my life began to change. It was so exciting. I mean, I began to win awards and all different types of things that actually I wasn't vying for them. It was just people that noticed that, something is really different about her. I was like, yeah, I'm not burning my energy on, I'm not burning my energy on, things that really don't matter. So
Well,
yeah.
it's I guess my question goes along with what you just said and the story you told us about you and your husband not seeing eye to eye on finances. So, it took more than just a mind change. Did you have to change some behaviors? And then how were you able to align your thinking with your husband's thinking or vice versa?
Yeah, that's very good. You know what? The mind shift definitely comes first. I think the first thing that I had to decide, and this is the secret. It's like there's really a secret here. Um, the point of the book, and out of this is why I wrote the book. Okay. The point of this is how to be heard when others don't listen. But the secret
Mm,
is this: when what you want matters more to you than being heard. That was the biggest shift I had to make. When my goals, when wanting to retire early, when wanting to have my first, $1,000 a month or 10K month, in revenue, when wanting to like transform something in my neighborhood, when something really mattered more than me wanting to be heard, that was the secret that really shifted things for
I
me.
like that.
Yeah. And so after that, I really began to say, okay, now what do I do? Now I need to put in a plan. So the first thing is I had to really start mindfully thinking, what is it? Give me these indicators of why I keep falling into these particular traps or what's wasting all of my time. That was one of the biggest things. It's actually identifying. You need an identifier, something that clicks with you before you walk into it. And so that's why I kind of made this really simple and just listed five. And, I'll give two. But after the five, after those traps and you identify them, you need to have a plan. You need to practice. It's just like working out or doing anything else. You need to practice that, you know what? When I identify that this issue has come up, okay, now what do I say?
Right.
And so I just give phrases and I practice this. I practice it over and over and over again. So that when I came up on the issue, I can just say it's already rehearsed. Okay, like number one with my husband and I, when we got ready to talk about finances, Gwen, we already knew how this conversation was going to end.
Mm.
You know what I said? This is the Groundhog Day one. I would run into it all the time. I would say, baby, you got this. Nothing more, nothing less.
Well, there's
Baby,
two
you
things
got
that
this.
come to my mind about what you've been saying. One is that not all conversations are fruitful. And I say that to mean that sometimes if both people aren't willing to listen to the other person, it's not fruitful. I was at a friend of mine's retirement. She had an event, a dinner event or lunch. It was like early dinner, late lunch time frame. And so we were at a table where we didn't necessarily all know each other. There was one gentleman at the table that never stopped talking.
Mm.
He talked from the time I was there for 2 hours. He never stopped talking. And he didn't leave any room for anybody else to talk. He knew it all. He would make a statement, and then if someone disagreed, he'd just talk all over them. So the person that I was sitting across from, we were listening to what he was saying, and he said, "Do you agree with that?" The one sitting across from me. I said, "No, but I've learned not to waste my time talking to people who know it all and they don't want to hear somebody else's opinion. It's a waste of energy."
Yeah,
So some conversations are not fruitful. And
that's
so,
correct.
so I don't know if that's in your trap, the trap
No,
scenario.
you did wonderful. It's called the frivolous talk trap. That is one of them.
Okay.
It is
Oh,
one.
is that one of the traps in your book?
It's in the book. It's in the book. I mean, you have there, it's called the frivolous talk trap. And now in this case, you want the relationships to work. You want, usually this book is surrounding, you want things to actually work out, and you're not giving up on this book really refers to people that are kind of in these relationships with folks or in these even career relationships with people. You're not giving up on them. It's just that when you realize that you're not on the same page and you're not necessarily about to come together right now, the best way to unify is to do it, you know, either on different in different platforms. You need to find a way where you can come together and just say on a very limited basis. So that's the whole point about this book. So yeah, you got it with the gentleman across the table. That's frivolous
Well,
talk.
he said that his wife divorced him or whatever. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, because you never let her get a word in. I know if you talk like this with strangers, imagine how he was at home, just on and on. He knew everything about everything. He had all the answers. And he never let anybody give it. Really, if you tried to even give an opinion, he would cut you off. So, but he knew it all emphatically. So that was, and he never stopped talking. I was amazed. That's one of the few times I've seen somebody do that.
Wow.
Even when we were eating, I think he was still talking. I don't know if he ever stopped to eat the meal. He was talking while he was eating. It was just it was different. And then some people when the relationship is very close and your personalities are just opposite, those are difficult as well,
Right.
where your personalities
Mm-hmm.
don't mesh
Mm-hmm.
together.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
That's right.
you see one thing and they see something else, and it's the same thing. You're looking at the same thing, but they see it one way and you see it another way.
That's right. And you're not going to necessarily, and listen, everybody's just not ready at certain seasons and points in life to, make certain decisions. But that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you have to put your life on hold and the goals that you have, okay,
I like that.
waiting
That's
on
true.
someone else to make up their mind.
Right.
That's number five. It's called the indecisive trap. There are, let's just go down them. It's the Groundhog Day trap. You already know how this conversation is going to end. And this is Rhonda, right? I love Rhonda. It's Rhonda. Am I saying
Yeah.
that correctly, Rhonda? Okay.
Rhonda.
Because I'm
Yeah.
Shonda.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's
I
one
love it.
better difference.
I
So,
love,
mhm.
yeah. And so you have the Groundhog Day. You already know how this conversation is going to end. You have the yes trap. People call that the people pleasing. I always say that you're not going to necessarily say no to some people. So let's just be honest. You're not going to say no to Aunt Susie, Uncle Carl. There are some people you're not. So you need to train yourself to say yes differently. Okay.
I
Mhm.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe not necessarily saying no, but saying yes differently.
That's right.
Or no differently.
Or no differently.
You can
Yeah,
you can
but I like the idea of saying yes differently because I think sometimes we say yes at a loss for ourselves, but
Yeah,
there's a way to say yes where we can still benefit from it. So
that's
I
right.
like where you're going with that, Shonda.
That's right. That's right. And you have to listen, we have to do this because we keep saying yes to people and you lose yourself. You're going to keep saying yes and you're going to lose yourself, frustrated with yourself that you're fulfilling all of their life's calls and duties and the things
Yes.
they need, but somehow what you're supposed to do is not quite as important. So that's number two. And then there's number three, the delayed enlightenment trap. Now, this is very important. I tell you, especially if you have children. I'm a college student right now. It's the point where they wake up way after. I mean, you've told them so. You knew the right answer the first time they came to you. But, you know, they didn't wake up to it until, months later or a year later. Here's the idea about,
or years later.
or years later,
They have to see it for themselves. Now, I was telling the audience, my daughter got married Saturday. So, yeah, it was a beautiful wedding. But, there's some things over the years, I would tell her things. And she, it's just like when my parents try to tell me things. She wouldn't hear me. She would hear me, but she wouldn't hear me. You know what I mean? And then something would happen to make it plain that what I was trying to tell her was the absolute truth. And then she said, "Well, Mom, don't say I told you so." And I said, "Why not? Why are you taking that away from me? When when I tell you so many times and you didn't see it." But that's a lot of times we can't see things until they happen to us. Someone can tell you over and over, but until it happens to you or someone close to you, sometimes it doesn't have to be happening to you directly. It can happen to someone close to you. Then you can see it. But until then, it's just theoretical.
right.
It's not
Mm-hmm,
actual.
hmm That's, I love how you said that. You said sometimes it takes years. It,
Yes.
It's
unfortunately,
true.
it
Yes.
could. And but your daughter has a good point, and I make that argument, Gwen, that the trap is to not say "I told you so." And the reason why, Rhonda and Gwen, I say that is because every person does deserve a noiseless awakening. Okay.
Yes, I love that. A
They
Okay.
noiseless
That's good.
awakening.
they
That's
deserve
good.
that. And because what you're saying to them is now just clicking on the surface, but you talking is going to interrupt the actual process of it getting down deep and them really processing. So when you're talking, you're kind of still throwing, interference and waves out there. So
Right.
just let it settle. Just let it settle. It's hard. Oh God, I failed that one so many times. That one, but I'll throw the last ones out. It's the frivolous talk. And those are the ones that we talked about where people, for some reason, just feel the need to talk about nothing and to waste your time doing it. It's the around the at work when people are kind of around the, what do they call it? The cooler talk and
Yes.
all
The
of
water
that.
cooler
Yeah,
talk.
Water
Yes.
water
cooler
cooler
talk.
talk. And
Uh,
by the way, corporations, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, they reported that they lost 1.5 trillion with a T dollar.
Wow.
Okay. In folks having frivolous, out of office talk time. That's quite a bit of money. So I couldn't imagine what persons with no deadlines, no bosses, no supervisors, I can't imagine what we do. I said, wow, I'm not even gonna add that up.
It's so funny you say that, Shonda. When I was in the army, I was stationed. I deployed to Iraq,
Mhm.
and I would go to. We had like office hours because I wasn't out there with the infantrymen, but we had office hours. We come in about 8:39 or whatever, and then we go back to our rooms around 5 o'clock. I
Mhm.
always left at 5. Other people would leave at 6, 7, 8 o'clock. And they would always say, well, Sergeant Lawson leaves at 5 o'clock. I say, you know why Sergeant Lawson leaves at 5 o'clock? Because I don't take smoke breaks. I'm not hanging out in other people's offices and at other people's desks talking about this, that, and the other. I'm at my desk doing my work. So when I leave at 5 o'clock, that means I'm done. I don't have anything else to do. But see, y'all sit there and want to go visit each other's desks. You want to go hang out. You want
Yeah.
to take an hour and a half lunch. You want to take
yeah, I was
smoke
gonna say
breaks
the
all
long
throughout the
lunch
day.
breaks.
So you wind up staying longer
Mm.
to finish up your work.
I love it. Exactly. Exactly. And they're supposed to be doing something else with that evening time.
Right.
I mean,
Yes, yeah,
who
and then
decides?
they don't have a relationship with their families. And
Yeah.
then 10 years later or 15, when they really don't have a relationship, they wonder what the heck happened.
What
And,
happened?
they were too busy. Now,
Hmm.
we don't have that much time left. I want to have you talk about what you started with, and that was a financial conversation with your husband, because finances is one of the big issues in marriage. I've been married 32 years, and my daughter's just getting started, and I told her, you being on the same accord with finances is very important, because a lot of bad things can happen when you're not on one accord. And you know it's better to know that before you get married, but some people don't. They don't realize how important that is. But some people just spend money. They just are spenders. They don't really plan, they don't budget, they just spend money. And then some people are responsible and budget and save. And having those two meld together, that's conflicting if you have somebody who just spends, because the responsibility is always on the person who's planning and saving.
Well, it can be. So what I did was this. I, instead of, consistently talking about it, fussing about it, and listen, let me say this. There are people who are free spirits. Okay, that's the term for folks who spend spontaneously. And then you have
That's
the
what it's called.
that is
Okay.
one of the terms. And then you have the conventionalists. You have folks who plan it out. I'm a conventionalist. My husband's more of a free spirit. I can't
Hmm.
necessarily say that one is right and one is wrong. I will say, though, it is difficult when you marry someone who's not. Okay. But sometimes that also makes life fun. Here's the thing that I learned. I stopped trying to make my husband a conventionalist. I said, you know what?
Okay.
If you want
It's
to
true.
go out and to do whatever it is you want to do, that's fine. However, what I did do was I made sure I separated meticulously. I have a completely different financial system.
Mm.
100% completely different financial system. Okay. And what I did is and that was one of the things. That's why I said I've lived it. My husband and I have been married now. We're going on 26 years. It was very difficult. Sometimes you wonder, are you going to Are you going to make it? He just made a purchase
Mm.
not too long ago. And I said, oh, but then I said, you know what? Wait, stop, hold back. That's your purchase. Because one of the things I did was when I got debt free, I wanted to make sure that I had a debt free base where I can now make whatever financial decisions I make. Here's the point, I think, when in writing this book is this: other people are going to make their own decisions. They're
Yeah.
going to do that, Gwen and Rhonda. They're going to do it with or without you. Okay. The point is are you going to waste all the needed energy that you have
Uh-oh.
on going back and forth with them, okay, on trying to get their mindset like your mindset? And or are you going to change your mindset to say, I don't necessarily need you thinking like me. I just need to have a point of unity with you.
Come
And then I
on.
can use that energy.
Let me go ahead and order this book right now,
Listen,
Shonda.
listen, let me tell you, just because your husband is a free spender, yeah, it's on Amazon. Just because your husband is a free spender, what does that have to do with you, Rhonda and Gwen, being a millionaire? Nothing. Nothing. It does not. I know it's a new mindset, but what does that have to do with you being you know what I mean? Nothing, not one thing. There are
Well,
things.
I hear you. Now,
Oh,
I've been married twice.
yeah. Hmm.
Okay. The first time it was to, I don't know if you call it a free thinker or just irresponsible as hell person.
Love
And
and honesty.
the person does affect you
They do.
if they are doing things to create crises that you then have to put fires out because it affects you.
That's right.
So it can, depending on how far they go. There are degrees to it. I
That's
think
right.
my first husband was on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most irresponsible. He was a 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I knew I didn't want that when I married my husband of 32 years. And we had a meeting of the minds before we got married.
Yes.
So, it's important to have the conversation before you get married.
Absolutely. And
So,
listen, this is not for narcissists and abusers and people
right,
who are crazy. I am
right.
Like
not.
that. Yes.
Okay, let's put this. That's not for these people.
Okay.
Well, Shonda, I see that your book is available in three different formats. It's on Kindle, it's in paperback, and it's on audio. Did you voice the audio yourself?
I didn't. I did not. And you know what? That's the first question folks ask. So when you please, please, recorded yourself. I'm going to record myself next time. But
Well, you
yeah.
have such a great voice.
You do have
I'm
a good
I'm
speaking voice.
listening to you
Thank
as you're
you.
speaking, and I could just imagine if you had voiced it yourself, the passion that would have been behind the words.
I love it. I'm going to go back just because you said that, Rhonda. Thank you.
Yeah. Or on your next book, try it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
will. Y'all
try
are
that.
great.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm serious though. I'm really going to download this because I think that this is so freeing for people who struggle to be heard. And just like you said, what's more important, being heard or fulfilling your goals, basically. I
Yes,
just want my goals to be fulfilled.
exactly.
Yeah, and when I'm at work, I just want my team to do their jobs. I
That's
don't have to go back and forth and shout and argue. And so that's why I say this is freeing just having this conversation right now. So
yeah.
I'm really looking forward to actually reading the book.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I tell you, and there's some pretty good reviews out there. So I've had a gamut of folk who've tested it out, from the East Coast to the West Coast. And so, I wanted to beta test it first to see if I was on track, but I think we're on to something.
Okay.
All right. I
A
love
lot of
it.
times in conversations, that's what you were kind of referring to, Ron. The less is more. You know,
Hmm.
you don't have to use a gazillion words to get your point across. And sometimes if you see that it's not getting through, you have to, for using a military term, retreat and reform and come back another day,
Yeah,
rethink it,
that's
because
good.
sometimes you may not get through, the way you want the first time. But if you retreat and rethink it, you can approach it differently and get through another in the future, the next day or the next week or whatever.
Yeah, that's good.
Mhm.
That's good. Awesome. Awesome.
Well, we're
Well,
at the end of our time,
Yeah.
Shonda.
oh
Uh,
yeah, it was
do you have a
great.
copy of your book? Or I know I see it behind you, but do you have a paperback or whatever that you can put in front of the camera so we can see it a little bit closer? Do you have
I
something?
tell you, you know what? That's why I put it up here. I do have a paperback and I don't want to waste the time.
Okay, all
I want to
right.
fall
It's
into the
quite all
trap
right. I
of
would
That's
saying
say
get
fine.
it, but
I would say this, Shonda. As we go on now, give us a really quick last minute tip.
yeah, this is a last minute tip. One is this: you are worth it. You are worth every dime, every bit of energy that you put into every goal that you set for yourself. You are worth not having to explain yourself all the time to other people. You are worth not having to repeat yourself all the time to other people. You are worth it. So, my last words are this: just go for it, look straight ahead, stop talking so much, and put the energy that you would put into talking, put it into your actions.
Come on.
Okay, good advice. And thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And congratulations on your book.
Thanks so much. Thank you,
Thank,
ladies.
thank you. Have a
Okay,
great night.
You too. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
bye bye. That was a great conversation.
It was.
So yeah, I found this is I try to use words that matter and not just talk for the sake of talking or hearing myself talk, and it's not always. Some people have to get the last word every time. When you talk, they have to get the last word, but that's not the way you should approach a conversation with somebody, because that
Right.
means you're really not listening to them. You're
Right.
really not giving them a chance to get the point across if you always have to get the last word. Well, we're going to talk to our next guest, and he's been on the show a couple of times before, but this time he's on with a new project that he's developed. And I've known Troy Johnson, I want to say 20 years, but when he comes on, he'll tell me. I think I'm I think I'm correct.
I think
And I
we've all
can't
known. I think we've all known Troy for
Troy
20
for
years.
20. I don't remember how I even met Troy or found out about Troy, but I'm pretty sure it's been 20 years. And maybe more than 20. More than 20 because Kush City is 25 years old.
Yeah. Am I
So
on? Am
anyway,
I on, ladies?
you're
Yes,
on,
you
Troy.
are.
I was trying to
Oh,
figure out how long we've known you.
oh man, no, it's been a lot more than 20 years.
Okay.
We probably met in 90, or at least online. We probably met in 99, 2000
Okay.
at the latest.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, at the
2000
latest.
at
So
the
that's
latest.
25 years.
That's 25 solid
Uh,
years. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
uh,
only been 20 years for me. I've only been in the field in the game for 20 years. So
Yeah.
okay. Now we met when we first started Kush City. Somehow I forgot how, but somehow we Troy might remember how exactly, but I don't.
Well,
I
you were always, super technical. So I was always looking for other people doing what I do, just to be able to talk shop. Just somebody who could relate to what I'm doing. But you had the physical store, and you was doing it online, before many other people were. And so when I discovered you all, I was just immediately drawn to you. And I remember the first time I visited Houston, the first thing I did was visit your store. You all weren't there, but I took a picture of the sign, and that was around the time I was building that database of Black-owned bookstores. So, you were one of the first bookstores that I started tracking, and actually that's something else I've been doing ever since. I've been, really just keeping track of and monitoring the success of Black-owned bookstores. So it's just something I've always done, and you were right there from the beginning. So
Well, you've been consistent. You got a hold to it and you haven't let it go, kind of thing. You've
yeah,
been uh, just building on the foundation you already had, and you've created an amazing uh, repository of information on Black authors, Black books, Black book events, Black bookstores, Black book clubs. If it's in books, you have some information on it, and long-term information that you built over time.
yeah, that's something that only comes with time. I mean, you
Right.
have there are a lot of websites there have always been websites that I aspired to be like, and they had better resources, more talented people, more knowledgeable people. But as you said, I've always, I just hung in there, because I've, really mission driven. I've done it for years where I wasn't making any money, and done it for years when I was losing money. And,
Mhm.
it's been my livelihood since 2008. So I haven't been able to lose a ton of money since then, but I would do it for free if I could. And you know, just the knowledge that I'm able to acquire and share. And as you said, just this evening, I sent someone an email. They mentioned Kwame Alexander and Jerry Craft. And these are two people who are extremely prominent today. And I remember, and I told the woman I was talking to that Kwame put me on my first panel discussion, and that was back in 1998. And that was an event that I covered called 360, a Revolution of Black Poets. And it was an
Mm.
event that had people like Hakeem Mahabuti, Kwame, Kalamu Yasalam, just Mary Evans, a lot of people who just being new in the book business, I was just discovering. So there's a whole bunch of poets, Jessica Care Moore, and that information is on my website. So I shared it with her, and she was just floored. She was like, that must have been a great event. But that, no one else is going to have that event chronicled on the web. And so, I've done that with that event. I've been to your event.
Several times.
In Houston a number of times
Mhm.
when it was at Falls River, the church, the convention center,
Mhm.
hotels.
Yeah.
And the really cool thing about your event is you always have, top name authors. So I would see, whoever, Walter Mosley or Eric Jerome Dickey, and
Mhm.
you could meet any and everybody at that event. And so when you do those events, over the decades now, you just get to know a lot of people, and you see their careers go up and down and everything else. So it's you've been part of that journey and that ride, and it's been fun. Even to see your event develop, and you do different things, and to see your daughter grow up, and to see you and Willie, have a great relationship for so many years, and even to running you at the Harlem Book Festival,
Yeah, that
just
was really we had the tent at Harlem Book Fair. We got rained out in the end. I don't know if you were there.
I don't know if you want to call that rain. That was a monsoon.
yeah,
It was like something in a movie, Troy.
Yeah.
It,
I
it
talked
was
to poor Max. He said he still hasn't. He said, I'm glad you're able to laugh now because I still can't laugh about that. He felt so bad.
yeah.
yeah,
It's a tough time of the year because that's it's it rains, and but
Yeah.
I was literally just walking down the street. That's my own neighborhood, and I was walking down the street to run an errand for my daughter who wanted me to pick something up for her. And I was like, holy cow, the festival's here. So I ended up spending hours there just talking to old friends and customers, and then running into you all there. And, so I'm glad I stumbled upon it. It's
And
just,
New Yorkers know New York. It's so funny. You say you lived in that neighborhood. I had a business call that day. And so I went kind of off to myself and sat on one of those little pillars
yeah.
and was talking to the guy on the phone. And I had him on FaceTime and he goes, Are you in New York? I was like, How did you recognize that I'm in New York? I was holding the phone like this, but New Yorkers know New York.
Yeah, yeah. New York is it's unique, and it's one of those places where you can do something like that, strolling down the street and come up on, a great book festival. And
Yeah.
I used to actually work with. Um, I've been involved. I had been involved with that book festival essentially since its inception. I think it started 97 or 98, around the same time we met. It's been running
Okay.
that long. Yeah.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so it's
And it was
back to, God,
but it was funny that you said you saw somebody wearing a Black Authors Matter t-shirt and you
yeah,
said, okay, she must be here. And then you came and found us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, aside from the rain, it was actually a nice setup that time.
It
When
was.
the when the book festival launched, that's where it was held. And
Oh, okay.
after that, it moved. It was uptown, and it was in the street, so they would shut the
Right.
street
A
down.
lot of people like that format when with it being in the street, you can just walk through it. And so I
Um,
had heard a few people say that they kind of missed that it wasn't that way before, but I thought it was still a great turnout.
yeah.
And the way it was set up, we could get networking done, meet new readers at the same time. I reconnected with some authors I hadn't seen in years.
Oh, good.
So it was a beautiful time.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably the premier Black Book Festival in the country. And if not, and it was on par with any book festival
Mhm.
in its heyday,
Yes.
so it's gone through changes over the years, but yeah, it was a world-class event. Um,
Absolutely.
and this event it was like you said, it was a good one. So yeah,
So
I was
you're
impressed.
on to talk about something, a new venture for you, and that's
Yeah,
your, tell us about the bestsellers list you created and what prompted you. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit because
please do.
Troy and I actually created what we call the power list. And it was a best-selling Black book list. And we did it for a couple of years. And in fact, I think the Facebook page for it is still up because I never took it down.
Oh wow.
And I think I got like a notification that somebody found it or something. And
Oh,
I don't remember what years we did it. Do you remember? You're good with that.
you know what? I could look it up, but
I think it's like 10 years ago when we did
it
it.
was at least 10 years. It started after the Blackboard Essence bestsellers list, went away.
Went away.
And
Okay,
that
yeah.
was an attempt to replace it. And we ran that, like you said, for a number of years. I still have all the books, all of the powerless bestsellers on the web. So and again, just maintaining that history. So it's not the African American Literature Book Club is not a website that's just, selling books. It really is an attempt to chronicle our history, the history of the Black book ecosystem. But the list that, I launched, and it's not just me, I'm working with a group of people, and, we've named ourselves the Black Book Accelerator. And the goal of the Black Book Accelerator is to sell more books and sell more books by Black writers. Let me clarify that. And this bestsellers list is a little different than what we did in the past. So what we tried to do with the power list is take our sales, City, AALBC, Mosaic Books, and there are probably a few others that I
And
can't recall. But
Amazon. We got data from Amazon too.
yeah, so and to compile a list.
Right.
This list, however, takes data from Sakana's BookScan. Now, BookScan is like the Nielsen of the book world. So they collect data from Amazon, bookshop.org, brick and mortar stores like Barnes and Noble, and independent booksellers. Any Black-owned bookstore can submit their data to Sakana. Um, and so it's really so the list is completely transparent. Anyone with access to BookScan, if they think their book should have made the list, they can log on to Sakana, look up their book sales, And if it should have made the list, then I won't correct previous lists, but I'll make sure I track it moving forward. Because the challenge with this list is identifying the books. You know,
Right.
I get a feed of about 100,000 titles every month from BookScan, and that's just a fraction of the books that are published on a that are in print. And then those books theoretically represent all of the books written by Black people. And then I take that list and I break the books out into 8 different categories: adult fiction, hardcover and paperback; adult nonfiction, hardcover and paperback; juvenile fiction, juvenile nonfiction; young adult, um, and poetry. And then I sort the books by sales. And the really good thing about the list, from my perspective, is one, I'm discovering books that are selling well that I wasn't aware of. So the way, without getting too technical or wonky, there's a piece of data called a BISAC code that publishers can assign to their books. And some of those BISAC codes describe books about Blacks or African Americans. So I take all of those books. But not all books written by Black people have a Black BISAC. So I have to identify the books in a variety of ways. I look at the New York Times bestsellers list. I talk to publishers and authors, and so I identify these books and I generate that list. And anybody can find the list at BLK Bestsellers. So it's the BLK Bestsellers list. We're finalizing a logo, or a seal. The list launched, less than a month ago, but I've been collecting data for the better part of 2 years. So when I launched the list last month, it launched with 16 months of data. And I just added April sales figures. And so it has 17 months of data on it right now. So, I have not met a bookseller who is familiar with all the books on the list. So that's a good thing. So it not only helps booksellers, it helps readers find books that they wouldn't have known about. One author reached out to
Nice.
me, seeing their name on the list, and she was like, "Troy, I know I'm selling a lot of books, but I'm not on anybody's bestsellers list." So, Rhonda and Gwen, there are fewer places than when we started that power list. There were more places where bestsellers lists were being published. Today, there are just fewer places. So, I think, there's definitely a need for this type of list. And like I said, it goes 20 books deep. I actually track 50 books deep on the back end, but it goes 20 books deep and in 8 different categories. So there's 160 different titles every month. And I think it's, once it catches on, it's going to be quite prominent.
Well, I just posted an article that was in Publishers Weekly about this list. I just put it in the chat.
Great. Yeah, they covered it about a day or two before it launched. I happened to run into a journalist from Publishers Weekly at a conference, and I told her about the list, and they were kind enough to cover it. And I think that's a big deal. So, the honor is reflected in Edelweiss's database. And again, that's, unless you're in the book industry, you might not be familiar with it, but it's a place where booksellers can get galleys, electronic galleys of upcoming titles from all types of publishers. So, and they can learn about books and get reviews. And so if a book is a BLK bestseller, there's an honor icon in Edelweiss's system. And so that's, a good thing. So we're working now on promoting this bestsellers list. And again, I can't thank you two enough for giving me a platform to talk about it here, because, it's unlike the old days, is the way information is shared. Well, actually, like the old days, the way information is shared is through the way we're doing it now, through, word of mouth. And, if we can't rely on the algorithm to promote things like this.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, so unless you're doing things to keep people on a social media platform, if you're sending them out to some website to look at a bestsellers list, it really isn't. It's not going to feed the algorithm. The algorithm likes things that keeps you on the platform, and and unfortunately, that's kind of hurt the web in a broader sense, because it's tougher. It's very hard for a website to make it, and the way I make it is by providing resources and doing things that others might consider, like supporting other bookstores and actively chronicling them. People say, "Why are you going to support your competition?" But they're not my competition. We need a vibrant community of booksellers in the online and brick and mortar stores. I just added a few, actually, mobile bookstores. There's a sister in the Midwest that has a bunch of book vending machines. So I have her
Yeah.
information
Been
on
hearing about those.
yeah.
Mhm.
So there, people are doing creative things, and
They are.
definitely want to share that.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
for let's say there are, because we have a number of newer authors or aspiring authors who watch the show. And they may be hearing this, and they may say this is great for a book that's already selling well to make it to the BLK bestsellers. But what do I need to do to get into the conversation?
Well, the it is possible. So there are actually, so one of the authors I discovered is a poet, R.N. Sen. Never heard of him, and this guy's lighting up the bestsellers list. So if you look under poetry, I don't know how many books he's got on the poetry list, but it's it's possible for a independently published author or author publisher to make the list. So it's not unsurmountable. But this from the perspective of an author who's just starting out, um, and no one knows who you are, you still have to do the work of
Right.
promoting your work, and you're providing the platforms for these authors. Um, like I mentioned, Kwame Alexander. Back in 1998, nobody knew who he was, but 25 years, and he was already he was in the game of book. He was a publisher when I met him. He had a publishing company called Blackwords, and that was 28 years ago. So when he explodes, a few years ago, people think, oh, that happened overnight. No,
Yeah,
he
it
was
takes 20
working.
years to become an overnight
Right.
success. We talked about that. Yeah, I forgot who
Yeah,
was on we were talking about it, but a couple of
sure.
weeks ago, it takes years to become an overnight success. That's
Not, yeah, and even Jerry Craft, who they just came off this big, they got a Raptor tour bus with their logo and book covers. Have you heard about this? And they actually literally traveled the country in a bus doing a book tour. But Jerry
Wow.
Craft, who's won pretty much every award that you can win, he's the same thing. Jerry was selling books himself that he self-published 30 years ago.
Yeah,
He was selling books when I got started. Before you and I got started, Glenn,
yeah.
on the web, Jerry Craft was selling his books. So like my kids literally grew up on his books. When I first met him, my younger daughter in particular, who writes sketch comedy now, she really liked Jerry Craft's books. So yeah, another 30-year overnight sensation. So I
And
would,
that's why new authors, they'll say, well, how do I get this, that, and the other? And they have one book. I'm like, okay, the
yeah.
people that you look up to, that you see that are, as you said, winning awards now, are really like, they might have 100 books.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
might have
no,
been book 50 before they really, really had a breakthrough, or book 5 or 10. I know I had a breakthrough with my fifth book about debt-free
Yeah,
college,
I
and
remember that.
that gave me a breakthrough. So it is not, and the thing is, that was a book I didn't plan to write.
Wow. Wow.
That came about because my daughter, I got her in college debt free as a freshman. I figured it out. And I was talking about it on Facebook to people, while I was doing it. And they said, how do I get the information? And I said, well, why don't I put it in a book? I mean, it was that. And then it just took off, because
Yeah.
it's so needed.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
The more
So
expensive college becomes, the more information you need on how not to have to borrow, the equivalent of a mortgage for a home in order to get a 4-year degree or 5 years or whatever, because it's
right.
just
Right.
it's too confining. It's like an
Sure.
albatross, and I didn't want that for her. So, but you just never know what's gonna really catch on.
Right.
Sometimes
Right.
Right.
really know. So
But
you just have to
again,
keep writing. And a lot of
yeah.
people, if they have one book, it's really a memoir. It's like they wanted the book about their life. And I tell people, unless you're a celebrity, nobody cares. And you hate to say it that succinctly, but it is true. That's something for you and maybe your friends and a few other people. But,
Yeah.
you know, you have to have something that's more commercial, meaning
Right.
more for the broad public.
Yep. 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 But again, it wasn't like you was some unknown, uneducated, inexperienced indie author. You had a wealth of experience. You were a bookseller. You so again, but that whole thing is, all right, this is a book, maybe not your first one, but again, it's supported by decades of experience, and
Well,
you
that's
can't
that's
replace that. And
that's
I
true.
think, yeah. So the two guys I just mentioned, and many, many, many others, that's what it is. It's time, experience, hard work, and tenacity, and not giving up, and
Yeah.
not doing it for the love of it. You don't do what we do to make money. You
Right.
can make money
To get rich.
to get rich.
Yeah, it's
let me
not
not
just making money. People, they want to get rich. Let's be
Right.
real about it.
Right.
they want to get
Right.
want to get rich quickly.
Yeah.
So
And
that's the
that's
other
not
thing.
the way it works. That's not the way any of this works.
Yeah. Well,
So,
Troy, we only have a couple minutes left, but in those couple minutes, can you talk about the AALBC platform, how people, what types of resources are on there, and then how people can tap into your services? Because you have an amazing newsletter that I'm subscribed to that I get all the time.
Right, right.
And there every once in a while in the newsletter you have features of authors. And how can authors be a part of that?
Well, so you visit the site, and there is a frequently asked questions.
Hmm.
One, under the FAQ, just go to the site, do a search for frequently asked questions, and it'll tell you a number of ways of getting on the website. So the African American Literature Book Club, or AALBC.com, provides a variety of services for authors. The site, we publish reviews of books. We provide a platform for authors and publishers to advertise their books, or anybody can advertise something that they think my audience might like. And the newsletters can be sponsored. So you can put a banner at the top, and you can sponsor that, or a banner at the bottom. So there are a number of ways you can pay to get on the site immediately. And there are mainstream publishers who do that regularly with their books. And there are indie authors or author publishers who do the same thing. When they come out with a new book, they advertise on the site. So the website is a tremendous platform for doing that. That newsletter is extremely popular. It I have close to 19,000 subscribers. Many of those subscribers actually pay for their subscription, thankfully, because it's an important revenue stream. And the other thing about it is that the open rates, 35 to 50% of the people who receive it will open it. And that's pretty high for a newsletter.
It
So
is.
if you're interested in having your book seen, it doesn't mean someone's going to buy it immediately, but you have to get your name out in front of readers on a regular basis. And so AALBC is one way of doing that, advertising on Crush City, participating in the National Black Book Festival. Doing all of these things helps the public understand who you are. And those guys that I mentioned earlier, that's what they did. They did it year in, year out, and they were relentless. And they've reached success as a result of that. But they also had some talent too. So it wasn't just
Right.
hard work.
That's the big
Hard
part.
work, yeah, it was hard work with
Mm.
talent.
Well,
So
those of you who have not met Troy, I just want you to know that Troy is the truth. He's been in this industry a long time. He has supported many authors. He's a staple in the literary industry. So this is not a fly-by-night person who's saying, "Give me your money." This man is the absolute truth.
Yeah, and anybody in the Black literature space knows Troy. Just just if they've been in it any length of
yeah,
time
yeah,
at all,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, they know. It's kind of like people say they know me. Somebody, I was in Austin and somebody said I was an icon. I said, no, I'm not an icon. She said, yes, you are. So I don't see myself like that at all. But I've been around this thing a long time. And I
Right.
guess if that qualifies me, then so be it. Um, I had two quick questions, and we actually, but do you
All
have
right.
your AALBC shirt on? Is that what that is?
Yeah, it is one with the old logo on it. But yeah,
Oh, okay. I thought it was. And can you quickly just answer on your list? You said you had 16 months worth of data. Is it like a running list where you're taking all the data from the 16 months to create the bestsellers list, and then the next month it's still building on the previous month's
no,
same?
yeah, I understand what you're
Understand
saying.
what I'm
So
asking? Okay.
every month I take a snapshot. So it's not exactly a calendar month, but it's a
Okay.
4 week period. It goes back actually 17 months, all the way back to January of 2024. So if you go to the list, blkbestsellers.com, there's a drop down. You can select January 24. And so you can see the
Okay.
books that were the top sellers in 8 categories back then. And all
Okay.
the way up to and including the latest data is May of 2025.
Okay. So it is month to month.
It's month to month.
Okay.
I have also published the top books for 2024 and the top books for 2023. So
Okay.
those lists are on the site, and then the top selling authors for those periods. But yeah, it's a monthly list. And to your point, in the nonfiction category, if you're a celebrity, wrote a memoir, more than likely it's going to hit the list very high. But
Mhm.
those books tend to trail off after a few months.
That's
Uh,
true.
the exception is Matriarch, Beyonce's mom's book, from your neck of the woods, and that book is a strong number one. Like it blows away pretty much everything that came after it. And so it's been I believe it's the number one seller for the last 2 periods since it's come out. So that's for a nonfiction book, that's pretty strong, But
Mhm.
I know we're done. But the other thing about that list is you get interesting information out of it, and like some of the top selling children's books with Black characters aren't written by Black writers. So our list excludes
Mm.
those books, but
Okay.
it was an interesting discovery to me. Now, people in the children's book space knew that, but I didn't know it until I was looking at the data. So it just speaks to the fact that there are structural hindrances in the Black book in the ecosystem of publishing that prevent our books from selling as well as they could. And that's why the work that you all are doing is so important, because you help change that. And that's the group of that's what the Black Book um, Accelerator is trying to do. And I'll leave you with one more thing. You might have heard of Kevin Johnson, the former
Yes.
mayor of Sacramento,
Mm.
who founded a bookstore, Underground Books in Sacramento, California, former, NBA All-Star.
Hmm.
He is actively involved now in trying to help Black booksellers organize. And so I'm actually really excited about his efforts because he has the resources and connections to actually do something really impactful.
That's amazing. We got
Yeah,
to get him on the show, Gwen.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know
I
what?
know. We'll
Get
we'll talk about that off
okay.
camera.
All
I'll
right.
send you some information.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Troy, for being on the
Okay.
show.
Great.
Congratulations on your new venture.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay.
you, Troy.
Take care
We'll
now,
see. We'll
ladies.
be seeing you.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, well, we're at the last interview and we ran a little bit over with Troy. Um, so we are looking for at our last guest for the night, and her name is it Kyina Routt? Is that how it's pronounced?
It's but everyone just call me Kay.
But how do
K.
you
But how
say
do
your
you
name?
pronounce
We don't want to say
it? How do you
it
pronounce
Kiana.
wrong.
it? Kiana?
Kiana. Kiana Routt.
Kiana.
Kiana. Okay. Well, that's what I kind of thought, but Kiana. All right. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And
Thank you for
Kiana
being
writes
here.
Christian fiction, and she's got a juicy book called the First Lady Games. That's
Yes.
good.
I
And,
love your titles, Boss Lady Devotional and First Lady Games.
Yes. 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 Um, those titles, I don't know, they just come to me. Titles come to me and I just start writing about it. Sometimes someone will call me up and say, "Hey, can you write this? Can you write about this?" And then I'm like, what would be a good
oh,
name at the end? And sometimes I write it at the beginning. It just all depends.
and then you have the
Gotcha.
church ladies in your backdrop.
Yes. They are a focal point of my book.
Okay, are they the missionaries, the deaconess? Is they have different titles.
The church mothers, church
Yeah.
aunties, yes, all of them.
Now you say you grew up in a small town Baptist church. Now where did you grow up? You,
Two sides. I was in Houston first. I grew up
okay.
at a little church, little small church, Holy House of the Lord Missionary Baptist Church. And then we moved to East Texas to a little church in I'm saying Long Branch. It was in Long Branch, Texas. Maybe have a population of like 131 people.
Oh,
So it's really
Oh, y'all all
small
knew each other.
wow.
or related, some kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And my grandfather was actually a pastor at the time. So,
Okay.
yes, and I played the piano.
Okay. So you saw
Not by choice.
okay, all the kind of stereotypes of people who had pastors in their family, either fathers or grandfathers. Now, I'm a PK, as the audience knows, but I didn't play the piano. I took piano lessons, but I didn't have consistent training, so I never did really catch on. But I did sing in the choir and led songs and did that kind of thing. So, um, and it was a Baptist church. My father was a Baptist preacher, so really back in the day there weren't that many different denominations that were active. It was the Baptist, then you had the Church of God in Christ, like the Kojic, and then you had the AMEs, African Methodist Episcopal churches, and that was about it where I lived.
I think Houston had a more variety, but in Long Branch, it was primarily Baptist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
and we didn't have too many Black Catholics where I was, but Rhonda's from New Orleans, and Catholicism is very prominent there. But growing up, the only family I knew that was Catholic had 16 children, but so that's kind of a stereotype, I guess. Their last name was Davis, and they were stair steps. It was one every year in school. Like the school, there was one in every grade. And that was the only
That
Catholic
was like
family
that.
I knew. so, so anyway, tell us about First Lady Games and that's your newest book. What's the plot? What's going on in there?
A Christian romance.
Okay.
It's centered around a young lady. Her name is Valerie Bennett, who comes home after dealing with, heartbreak in the big city. So she comes home to where it all started, the judgmental eye. She feels she's not welcome there. She's being judged. Everyone has a plan for her life. And she just feels like God is not part of that plan. Y'all are planning for me, but where is God in the picture? And I felt like that was it kind of sit, with a lot of us that grew up in the Baptist church. You get the church mothers and the aunties that know more about your life than what God knows. So I wanted to kind of bring that to the forefront. Well, she meets a gentleman who, most of everyone read is the pastor, and they start this, kind of love-hate relationship type, and it blossoms into something more than what they anticipated that it was going to be.
Now, is the pastor single? Okay,
Yes.
your voice. I'm trying to see if she's trying to get with the pastor. Is it after church hours, or is it what is that's what I'm trying to
It's
do.
not really her trying to get with the pastor. It's more about the pastor trying to get with her.
Her. Well, either way.
Mhm.
A
Yes.
lot that is a common theme, and a lot of people in church settings, single women, think that being a first lady is
Glamour.
glamorous.
Mm-hmm.
Glamorous.
You know,
And it's not necessarily glamorous. I'll say that.
um, I get the question asked a lot. People say, "Is this book about you and your husband?" I say, "Do it look like I fit that mold to be a first lady?" I always joke with one of my friends. I was like, "Mm-mm." I say, if God calls my husband to preach, I'm just gonna tell him he called you. He didn't call me. I don't want that title. But it's just in joking. But I know that I will stand by him. But that's not my life right now. That's not the role that God has for me. So I'm just going to, if it lead that way, then I'll wear that crown with, honor. But it's not something that I'm striving for. And so
Yeah, well, when you grow up in an environment, I know my dad was a pastor, so my whole life. So my dad was actually called to preach the year I was born. So I grew up in it my whole life. And the one thing I did not want to do was date a preacher. And I told my husband when we got married, if you got called, I wouldn't divorce you, but that's not the life I want to live. I lived that life already. Being
yeah.
under a microscope and everybody in your business, you can't make a mistake. It's a lot of pressure. People don't realize how much pressure is involved in that role. And it's a role of service too, because my dad worked 7 days a week. He was always had to be available for problems with church. Well, and the church had a lot of activities. The church was open 7 days a week with something going on, and so you know it's not for everyone. It's not, if people are
It's
thinking
not.
it's
Right.
glamorous, it's a life of service, and they need to approach it like that. So the two people on your cover are they models? Where did you get? How did you select those two individuals?
Those are actually graphics that I developed myself. I dabble into, little graphic design here and there. And I learned how to make some images with Chat GPT. And so
Nothing
I
wrong with
was,
that.
yeah, so I was thinking, I was like, what do Val look like to me? What does the church mothers look like to me? And so I went back into my book. I was rereading it. I was thinking about their personalities and who they are. Then I started thinking about some of the encounters that I've had in church and how they looked and things like that. I just put it all together and I came up with the characters. My sister swear up and down that I was describing her when I was making this character. I'm like, no, I was not. But then my husband and my son was like, yeah, she kind of looked like Amy. I'm like, all right, well, maybe unconsciously I did it. So yes.
Now, are these two the two books that you have available?
Yes.
So, do
So
you
the
have
two books.
other books, or this is where you're starting your launch?
This is where I'm starting. The First Lady Games is my very first one. They are available on my website and on Amazon. They also available on print through like Barnes and Noble, so you can get it through print there. The Boss Lady Devotional is out. It's on Kindle as well. You can buy a print copy on my website, and soon Amazon is coming. So I'm very, very excited about them. This is just the start of I don't want to call it a series. I want to call it a movement.
Okay. Now,
Okay, a movement.
what is the Boss Lady Devotional about?
So the Boss Lady is Devotional is not your typical like prayer journal. This is more centered around us women, us boss ladies. It's not going to be the thou shall not and the, the you open up prayer. It's more relatable.
Okay.
It's more relatable. And I
Is
like to
it
put.
is it more focused on busy ladies? Is it focused on business ladies? 'Cause when I hear boss lady, I usually think of women with their own businesses who are running their communities, or they lead in their homes, or something
Mhm.
to that effect. So is that what this is more focused toward?
So it's going to be catered for all of the women. I say women that are in business, women that are working 9 to 5 hard every day, standing in that boardroom, women that are running their household, chasing after kids. We all bosses. And so this book is going to be catered to every woman, not just those that have their own businesses, but it's
Okay,
to encourage and inspire everybody.
I like
Okay.
it. So I want to go back to this movement now. So so when you say that this is going to be a movement and not just a series, what do you mean by that?
Writing these books, yes, it is non-fictional. It is a Christian book, but I wanted to serve a purpose. I wanted it to show that, hey, you can be a Christian and still have flaws. You can be a Christian and still be sad. You can also be a Christian and can stand on your own and you can command a boardroom.
Mm-hmm.
Find as someone that's meek and mild all the time because I'm not. And I love Jesus. So that's why I say this is a movement because it's going to pull back the layers of things that sometimes we feel but are afraid to address, but
Yeah.
in a humorous and comical way. So
It kind of reminds me of Victoria Christopher Murray's early books,
mhm,
because she basically started the Christian fiction movement, and she wanted, just like you said, she wanted people to see that Christians don't have to be staunch and stiff. They go through things. We go through things just like anybody else does.
yes, yes, and that's my purpose. I have a list of books. They actually finished. I'm going back through like redoing them, and I'm gonna release them in phases. But each book is gonna talk about some type of trial. Like my next book is touch on forgiveness.
Hmm.
How it's not only for the other person, but for you. Like we hear these things in church, and we hear them when we listen to evangelists and ministers and podcasts. But how do we relate that to our life? And so when things are, I'm a trainer by nature. So when it's relatable, it's more easier to digest.
Right.
And so that's why I am putting it in books. And plus, I have a very, vivid imagination.
Well, I like your covers. They
Thank you.
look very clean, not too busy,
Yes.
and
And they're
colorful.
eye-catching.
Yeah, and you can see the title from a distance.
A
Uh,
mile away.
so some books, um, they have a font. I know they're trying to stylize, but they use fonts that you can't read, like at a distance. So especially like the cursive fonts and those kind of fonts like that, they're not easy to read at a distance. And all kinds of little nuances matter when it comes to book covers.
Hmm. It does. I did a lot of research before I started creating covers and things like that. I kind of had an idea of what I wanted, and I knew, coming from background in graphic design and things like that, that certain fonts stand out, and you want to always, kind of cater to your audience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Had to put myself, if I was reading this, how would I take it away? How would it look to me? If I walk into a bookstore and I see this on the shelf, will I pick it up?
Yeah, and that's important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because people are attracted to an attractive cover. That's what's going to get you to the book. And
right.
then they'll turn the book over to read the synopsis. But if you have a great story and a boring cover, they won't even come anywhere near your book. So I get it.
Yes.
Mm.
So
So what is your plan going forward? Like, do you have a plan for the next year or two in terms of books you want to release? Are you going to do more devotionals? Are you going to stick with the fiction side? What do you plan to do?
so I'm gonna stick with the fictional for right now. The devotional that I just did is 365 days. So I think that'll get us all the way to the end of the year.
To get us through the year
Uh,
at least. Mhm.
yes, I am gonna drop another book in September, right before the Black National Book Festival, because I will be there. Thank you, Miss Gwen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I meant to mention that you're actually one of the participating authors at the festival, and
Yeah,
we've already posted your meet me at the festival
I
flyer.
saw it. I was like, oh, I'm so professional now. I don't know, but
You're the celebrity now.
right.
Now
Yeah.
you're in Conroe, correct?
I'm in Conroe, by the way of Houston.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I remember passing when I used to drive back and forth. I used to live in Texas at one time.
Mhm.
And I would drive back and forth from Texas to Louisiana. I'd always see, I think we would pass by Conroe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
north
Mhm.
of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So you know where we went to lunch that time, Rhonda?
Yeah.
It's north of there.
Okay.
I'm in Northwest Houston, and
Okay.
Conroe is north of Northwest Houston. It's more
Yeah.
like on the way to Dallas, isn't it? Is it
Mhm.
off? It's off of 45.
45.
Interstate 45.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
if you're going
Yeah.
to Dallas from Houston going north, you'll pass Conroe.
Well, yeah, I was stationed in Killeen at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why I said I would pass Conroe on the way there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm out here. I like to say I'm out here in the boonies, but I love it. It's so peaceful.
Girl, I live in the boonies now. I'm in Maryland. I'm surrounded by trees.
And she's in a town that nobody even knows the name of it.
Yeah, nobody's heard of my town. And you know what though? I wanted to stay that way. Don't move over here,
Yeah,
y'all.
I
Don't
agree.
move over here.
And I want people to stop moving to Houston. We're
Oh,
full.
that's not gonna
Can't
happen.
take anymore.
Right.
We
I've been
have
in Maryland, but it was to Baltimore.
Nah,
oh
that's different.
okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, Baltimore. Yeah, that's the whole different thing. Uh it's not far.
No, well, I live closer to DC. It would take me, depending on traffic, maybe about an hour to an hour and a half to get to Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
You don't know where Gwen, come visit me so you can see where I live.
Okay, well, I've been to DC many, many times and flown into BWI a lot of times because it's cheaper
Yeah.
a lot of times to fly into Baltimore than it, and then just get a train into
Yeah, I
DC.
live closer to Reagan.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
all right. So, but anyway, so Ken, you have another book coming out now. The book you have coming out in September, is it a sequel or a standalone to the First
It's a
Lady?
sequel.
It's part of the movement.
Yes, it's part of the movie. Yes. It is called The Deacon and His Bride.
Okay. All right.
Now,
Yeah, so we're getting to the deacons now.
yeah,
So
we
are
getting into it.
are you
Yeah.
gonna go through the elders and the trustees?
You know what? Someone asked me, could I write a story about the church aunties in their past? And I was like, oh, y'all trying to really stir up some stuff, but
Well, yeah, because the church aunties weren't always the good, upstanding citizens
that
that we see
part,
today.
that part, yes. And so I'm like
That might be
thinking,
interesting
mhm,
because they got to be the church aunties by going through some stuff when they were young and out in the world, and
Right.
they decided that wasn't for them, but they had
yeah.
an interesting, very colorful past.
But they act like they don't have a blemish. That part.
Sometimes, sometimes.
It's funny
Sometimes.
because my husband, he called me from work. He was like, babe, have you started writing your other book yet? I was like, yeah. He was like, can you write one on a cruise ship? The church go on a cruise. I'm like, really? This is what you want me to do? So what am I for your amusement? But I said, all right, I'll put it in
Oh,
rotation.
Well,
okay.
hopefully they won't get in a fight when they get off the cruise ship. Like sometimes we see it
I
on
know.
YouTube. People get
We gonna see.
and they
I see what
start
I come up
brawling.
with.
And my thing is, you should have got some rest and chilled on the cruise. You get off the ship and
Yes.
fighting about something. I don't get it. I love cruises and I've never seen anything like that. But it's your first time for everything.
Yes.
So let the audience know where they can get your books. Well, you have it on the screen, but can they get an autographed copy on your website? Is that possible? Is that something that can happen?
I have not put the autograph copies on the website, but that's something that I need to do. I'll make sure I do it tomorrow. But they can also write me directly and I can John Hancock it and put it in the mail for them. And they can
Okay.
also visit us at the National Book Festival and get an autograph copy as well.
Okay. And it's coming up pretty quick.
Well, I'm gonna
we
see you at the festival.
Yeah, we're already in June and halfway
This
through
year
June.
is going by so
It's too
fast.
It
fast.
is.
It's like
It
slow
is.
down, you know,
Right.
because I when my daughter got engaged over the holidays and the wedding was June 14th, and it seemed like it was a while, and now
I
it's over.
know. I didn't realize that the time had come until I know you kept saying my daughter's wedding is coming up, but then all of a sudden I'm looking at the pictures like, wait a minute.
It happened Saturday. So it's just the half the year is over. Oh, and next week, just for the audience sake, next week is our birthday show where Rhonda and I will be wearing our birthday crowns because our birthdays are 8 days apart or 9 days apart. My birthday's this Friday.
And my
And
birthday is June 29th.
right. So we celebrate our birthdays on one show that's in between our birthdays, and it will be next Tuesday. So, Kyina, did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Thank you for being a guest on the show, and we look forward to seeing you in October with your new
Yes.
book, whatever the new book is going. The Deacon and His Bride. Is that going? That's going to be.
Yes, ma'am.
That's going to be hot. So.
It
Yes.
is.
People might, here's a tip, sell them as a set for a discount. Like
Yes.
it's better to get like a not two for one, but I don't know what your pricing is, but this is a tip for all vendors. You need to have some special pricing on your books at the festival. People are looking for deals. You still need to make money on your books, but they're looking for deals. So if they buy more than one, that's where you give them a deal for anything over one. So anyway, we're at the end of our time. Thank you so much for being a guest, and we'll see you in October.
Have a
Oh,
great night. It was great to meet you, Kyina.
You too.
Kyina.
Kiana, you got it.
all right.
Yes.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay, well, that's the end of the show for this week. And we'll be back next Tuesday with another amazing episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.